The time is now 6:57 on this Thursday morning, and here's what you need to know before you go. Last night, the last go evacuation zone in St. Louis County, other than the BWCA, was lifted. That is Zone 100, which is along the Echo Trail. The area has been switched to set status, meaning residents can return home but need to be ready to leave again. In Wisconsin, a judge says voters will not get a do-over after big changes in the race for governor. The judge said state law is clear that voters are not allowed to replace an absentee ballot with a new one. Tens of thousands of people had already voted before 3 Democrats dropped out of the race and then 1 re-entered. In Washington, senators are making a new push to finally update the federal farm bill. Senate agriculture leaders John Boozman and Amy Klobuchar are trying to get a companion package to the floor. Congress has been renewing the old 2018 bill year after year, but lawmakers on both sides say inflation and the pandemic have left many farmers losing money and in need of new support. The U.S. military launched a heavy wave of strikes on dozens of targets in Iran on Wednesday, hours after President Trump used profane language to warn the country of a forceful response. The strikes follow what Washington called a surprise attack on U.S. forces, ending a brief lull in fighting that had raised hopes for renewed peace talks.